liberal bastion, the Upper West Side of New York City. And I don't have the thickest hair, but I won't have any left because I'm pulling it out. I don't think I live in a bubble. I grew up middle class. My parents didn't make much money. I've done okay for myself. But I'm going to pivot just a little bit because when you said Trump is having fun, this is what I don't understand. At whose expense?
Right. Because if everybody else isn't having fun because we need fun equity, Donald Trump and the rest of the nation aren't allowed to have fun because it's every time at somebody else's expense, according to you. This is why you're a miserable person.
I I cannot bear the thought of, first of all, why can't he pronounce her name correctly? You think it's a joke? I don't think it's a joke. It's very easy.
What's a joke is that people like you who cannot deal with the idea that, in fact, that there are more important problems in the nation. For example, record inflation, the precipice of World War III, and you're complaining about somebody's name being pronounced that people aren't familiar with.
To say Kamala. And when I see commercials about poisoning the blood, about immigrants who clean toilets and pick lettuce and
because that's what they're supposed to do, according to you. That is the purpose of these immigrants. This is the jobs that they're supposed to have. They're not high-paid computer programmers, doctors. No, they're picking your lettuce.
We wouldn't have vegetables without immigrants.
Right,
but
exactly.
Here's the one I want to focus on. I'm a gay woman. I have a son. I have a wife. I work hard. We love our son. Do you know, in 2011, we got married in New York State. And our son asked us why we weren't married. And we told him because we weren't allowed to get married. And he burst out in tears. He started.
I guarantee you that story is exaggerated. At best, exaggerated, if not completely fabricated.
Started to cry because he didn't understand our family's just like any other family. So no,
No, not really. I mean, it's fine. I don't mind the fact that two gay women are raising a child, but you're not like every other family. There are differences.
I'm going to ask you about transgender, okay? Because I'm seeing these horrific, and I mean horrific. You say Trump is having fun campaigning.
How dare he?
He is talking about transgender people. I know a few transgender people. They struggle mightily. There's nothing.
They're going to struggle no matter what because they have mental illnesses and they think that the cure is to switch their sex, their gender, however you want to term it. I feel bad for them, but they struggle not because of what everybody else says, but because that's what leads them to want to switch their bodies around.
Funny about making fun. Maybe people out there don't remember Matthew Shepard 30 years ago strung up because he was a gay man.
Fake news, fake story brought by the media. It was a drug deal gone bad or something. I've delved into it a little. That's my memory.
Or Jodie Foster and all these people having to be in the closet. So yeah, I'm angry because, you don't go to school a man, a boy, and come back a woman. What kind
Actually, you kind of do nowadays.
of cruelty is that? Why is that tolerated? What has happened to our country?
What's not being intolerant? You're the tolerant left.
And one last thing, and then I'm sorry, I just have to get it out.
Now speak.
What do people want from Kamala? I know, ask me. I'll tell you where she stands. I always wonder this.
A modicum of intelligence, perhaps.
If we had flipped the end of 2016 and Joe Biden had inherited Obama's economy, boy, I think there'd be a whole different conversation here. I think that Biden really came in at a time, it was the end of COVID, and he inherited an economy that was just about to be awful. And
because blue states shut the nation down in an effort to remove Trump from office against his instincts, by the way. And he kind of allowed it. He's not completely blameless, but yeah, Trump was much better on the economy than the Democrats, no doubt.
I think Kamala Harris, I just think we're not involved enough to nominate a woman to elect.
I I ain't voting for no woman unless her name is Tulsi Gabbard. Definitely nobody named Kamala or Kamala or Kamalat, however you pronounce it.
A woman. I really do believe that. I look at all the countries. I think of all of the leaders around the world who are women, and I just think America is not really that evolved.
We're
I'm
not
sorry
that
I'm
involved.
rambling, but I'm angry.
No,
I'm really angry.
I'm
no,
angry
Nancy,
because
we're
I'm
very
a
glad.
leftist. I'm always
We're
angry.
glad we're here, and as Dan says, you speak for millions.
How,
I want to
and
make,
as a gay woman,
Yeah.
this is what I want to say.
Oh, my
I believe that
identity.
if Trump is elected, there's a good chance that in my opinion, horrific criminals, Alito,
Oh yeah, they're
and
criminals.
Clarence Thomas
Alito,
with his
Clarence Thomas, horrific
ginormous
criminals.
bus worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that was gifted to him, will resign and will get a Supreme Court that will overturn same-sex marriage. It will go back to the states just the way abortion did.
Everything should be left to the states. This is a positive thing where we don't have centralized control. The United States are the United States, thus an experiment in democracy, each and of their own 50.
Just the way abortion went back to the states. And you know what happened when abortion went back to, nobody wanted abortion to go back to the states.
Yeah, a lot of people did, dumb.
Women are suffering abortion. And I'd like to say to the previous person on, it's not about when you have an abortion, it's women's health. I knew a woman who had cancer, okay? She had cancer in the 6 months of her pregnancy, and she needed to have an abortion. Do you realize if she lived in Louisiana today, what would happen?
She could have gone across state lines.
What would happen to her?
Nancy, very grateful.
Okay, I'll stop.
No. I want to say one thing, then I want to ask you a question, okay?
Go.
Those of you in the chat who are mocking Nancy, I'm going to ask you again. In a couple weeks, your candidate might win and hers might lose. And she, as Dan said, represents tens of millions of Americans. You should aspire to live in a country where you have not just the presumption of grace towards Nancy, but you understand why she feels so strongly about these things. I've spent 10 years trying to convince people in Nancy's position to try to understand why Donald Trump has support. And Nancy, I would ask you to do that.
I'm going to go through this all at the end of this video as a former Democrat and explain a few things to Mr. Mark Halperin, who actually I respect.
Because he might win, and you should understand why, and not just say blame it on Justice Alito. Just hold on.
Can I say one last thing? Because I'm a New Yorker. One last thing.
Sure.
Guess where I grew up? I'm going to give you a hint. It sounds like it begins with a Q and ends with an S.
Ooh, so hard to figure out.
I grew up in Queens, New York, about 3 miles from Donald Trump. I'm 68 years old. I just want to say one thing to all the people, like scrolling right now. We knew back then when Trump was redlining and keeping Black people out of rentals, what that family was about. It's just, okay,
everybody's
I'll stop.
Okay.
All right, Nancy, I'm going to ask you one question, then Tricia is, and then Dan.
Okay.
You said you can explain where she stands on a position. So I'm going to ask you about something. I'm going to ask you something, and she hasn't answered it, and it's a little bit sensitive. So I'm going to try to phrase it as carefully well as I can.
Nothing will offend me at this point.
No, I know. I'm not worried about offending you. I'm worried about, inciting a riot here. She previously supported taxpayer-funded trans operations for illegal immigrants. Is that something that you think is right for the government to pay for?
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So did Donald Trump. It's all part of the Trump platform. No,
it's not part of the Trump platform. Not one bit. But note that they deflect everything. Orange man bad.
But Nancy, no, listen to me. Today,
listen to me,
whatever pervaded under his administration, today he would say he opposes that. He would forthrightly say, I'm not for that.
He opposed it before as well.
Now, you may say that's hypocritical because the law when he was president would have allowed it. But he would say he's for it. Is she for it? Or he'd say he's against it. Is she for that or not?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Of course you do. She stated it. I don't care. I don't care because it's orange man bad, you see, and my candidate might have worse, but I'm not going to pretend not to see them because he's orange.
Little tricks that they play.
Oh, it's a trick, is it?
If there are 3 a year, okay,
I don't care. But Nancy, here's why it's not a trick. Here's why it's not a trick, okay? The Trump campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars on ads on this topic.
That's correct.
And it's not something that tens of millions of Americans support. and she won't say where she stands on it. And you said you could say you could answer where she stood on anything, and you can't say where she stands on this.
Okay, all right. Let's give you that one. I can't say where she stands on that.
Yeah.
But that is a grain of sand in a beach of
No,
issues.
well, it depends on how big you make the beach. But for the American people, taxpayer money to pay for any health care for illegal immigrants, for a lot of Americans, that alone is offensive.
All right, I don't
Of course it is. They aren't playing as part of the system. They come here illegally and get our money.
agree.
I know you don't agree.
I know you don't. I don't support it.
You don't support what? You don't support taxpayer.
Taxpayer money
Okay.
for transgender surgery.
You don't. You don't. And it took you a while to say it. But you know who still hasn't said where she stands? Kamala Harris.
But that given the overwhelming number of issues would not even be close to being a deal breaker. And I also think
it is. It turns out to be for a lot of people.
Have sexually transmitted crazy mouth. Deal breaker.
But we got to get other people on. But I want to give Trish and Dan an opportunity. Trish, do you want to ask Nancy a question?
Yes, and Mark stole mine, so I have another one though, Nancy. Is there anything, any policy, anything that you like about Donald Trump?
Of course not.
And
nothing. I hate
what
him.
What could I possibly like?
Bad.
You know, what about criminal justice reform? Did you think that was positive?
I thought that was positive, but it's overshadowed for me by everything else. I
can't find anything positive.
He's such a. You know what? Do you know who Don Rickles is? Don Rickles is a comedian who would make fun of people. You know, if I want, Trump's having fun now. I don't want my politicians
to have fun because I
mocking and making fun of other people. I'll go to a comedy show for that. I don't want people going, come, mama. That to me is not funny. What's funny is dancing for 39 minutes.
Because you have no sense of humor.
I think he's sundowning personally, but yes,
not Joe Biden.
That.
Let's ignore that.
But in the scheme of things, I think he is a clear and present danger to this country. And I think
because that's what the media has told me to believe, because I'm indoctrinated, I'm hypnotized, I'm not smart enough or confident enough to express or have my own positions.
Vance is worse.
Okay,
what about catless ladies? He thinks that people who don't have children are less worthy.
Okay, Dan, you have a question for your neighbor.
God, Nancy, I feel you. I hear
you don't.
You are my family. You are so many people.
You are my family. You are so many people. This is pacing and leading. This is how you ingratiate yourself to somebody. This is not something that I would be able to do with this person.
People that I know, you're passionate. I know people who have started crying over what they think could be on the horizon. There are not many things in politics that make my stomach nervous. The idea of gay rights being overturned makes my stomach nervous.
Because y'all are fear-mongering. That's why.
Yeah, it's horrifying. My family. It's my family.
Right. Now, look, I hear you. And it's one of the reasons I'm a Democrat. I was raised by two very progressive parents who always believed in helping the less fortunate and equal rights for everyone. Right?
Bless you.
I hear you. Two things I'll just say. One, why does Trump mock her name? It is a belittling. You're from Queens. Who's the macho? Who's tougher on the block? He's done this for 9 years. But the second part I would say, and Mark made this point, so Mark, I'm going to steal it, but I'm going to credit to you for saying it yesterday. One of the things that frustrates Democrats about Kamala Harris and has frustrated independents is if you believe in something like transgender rights, and I think most Americans support a person's right to be who they want to be. It's a private matter. When the government then steps forward and says, we're going to start kind of paying for activities, I think it crosses a line. But regardless of how you or I feel about that, if Kamala Harris believes in it, say it. People will respect you if they disagree with you because it speaks to your soul. What do you believe? What animates you? And it's not just transgender rights. But on so many issues, she won't really answer questions.
Name one more.
Let's talk about civil rights. she just says, like, of course I'm for it. Because it's like the insinuation is her skin color. Right? What will you do on taxes? She doesn't want to get into answers because, and this has always been a character issue.
Nancy, I'll give you one, Nancy. Reparations for
Yeah.
the descendants of slaves. Where is she on that? She says she wants to study it, but where is she really on it?
I don't know, but I would suspect that she is not pro reparation.
Well,
That
the
would be
problem
my
is
guess.
she's
Well,
never
that's
said
if,
it.
wait, that's if she's Black today or Indian. And you know
You're
where I'm
nailing
going with
it.
that.
Yeah,
No,
but the
actually, I
problem,
know.
Nancy, I mean, the thing is, yeah, look, love Trump or hate Trump, there is not a lot of ambiguity about where he stands.
I
And
disagree with
is
that.
what
I
the
disagree with
voters
that.
love.
I disagree with that, Dan. There's tons of
Okay.
ambiguity. There's tons of ambiguity. Where does he stand on Social Security? Where does he stand on the deficit? Where does he stand on NATO? I mean, well, NATO probably more
Is he a
specific. Where's he
Democrat?
stand
I
on?
don't think there's
Is he a
Where's he
ambiguity.
stand on
Democrat? Is he a
Putin?
Republican?
Yeah.
I don't even know what party he's affiliated with.
Yeah.
All right,
I think it's
Nancy.
the Republican
Sorry, I'm
Party,
sorry.
dum-dum.
I had to get it out. I'm going to go play pickleball after
Nancy,
this.
we couldn't be more grateful for you to join. For
Nancy,
you
you
joining.
literally speak
And-
for 47.5%
Yeah.
of this
Yeah,
country.
baby!
And
Nancy,
Nancy, all
suffering
I'd ask is, I'm
dingbat,
not predicting
Dumbo.
Trump will win. I'm not rooting for him to win. I just
Life will
ask
go
you,
on.
but just prepare. Exactly, just prepare
And
because he might
respect
win. He
people.
might win.
Well,
I
you
want
know
you to
what?
be prepared.
I'm well enough off that I don't have to leave the country. And I'm proud of the accomplishments I've made. And I hope
Yeah.
everyone, gets through this.
Okay, Nancy, thank you.